Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. I think I'm on here. Hello there. How are y'all doing? Old Holy Smoking Pipe Padre saying good evening to you. It's a beautiful autumnal evening. I've been waiting quite a long time to be able to use that word, and I have to say that I think it's quite appropriate. It's apposite. It's happening as we speak. Uh, we are fastly approaching fall and autumn. So, and to me, I don't know. For some people, this time of year is the most perfect time of the year for pipe smoking. It's just fall, autumn, a burning pipe, beautiful aroma, pipe note, room note. It just doesn't get any better than this. And so, one of my favorite fall time winter blends is W.O. Larson. Love this. Mm. Now, it's a little dry. I think I opened this last year, maybe even 2 years ago. I've been working on it. But it's just it's a very fruity blend. Very fruity blend. I'm kind of keeping it so the light doesn't shine on it too much. Oh, that's nice looking light there. Look at that light. Oh, I love that. I love that. Look at that. That's beautiful. That's some nice looking work there. Okay. Hmm. But W. Larson signature. It's oh, it's really kind of a wintertime blend, but I love it. I just love it. So, and I'm smoking it in one of my all-time favorite kind of beat up old pipes. This is my Peterson with the P lip there. Can you see the P lip? Don't know if you can see that P lip there. It's the P system, the P lip system. Yeah, I need more light there. But anyway, this is a very favorite old pipe. I'm going to just do a little natural oils there on my old cheekies. Yeah, there we go. Mm. Good friend here, this old pipe. It is a replica of a Basil Rathbone. I guess in 1940, 1941, when Basil Rathbone played the one and the only, the inimitable Sherlock Holmes. So I'm here in my Caledonian room. Let me see if I can do a little pan around here. I'm using my new Logitech Brio 4K camera, but I'm not using it in ScreenFlow. I'm just doing a raw, straight coming at you video. Okay? Okay. See if I can do a little pan around the Caledonian room here. Of course, everything's all kind of dark. There's my green screen where I do some of my other videos. There's all my pipes, all my books. Yep, there's a claymore over there and some swords and stuff. And then we got yeah, my computers, my bald spot right there. Yep, in all of its glory. Okay. All right, there we go. Okay, there we are. We're back. Hmm. Well, tonight, kind of just getting back to basics. Here in the background, some wonderful Gregorian chant. I love Gregorian chant. I think a lot of people do, um, but it's kind of like when you live in Orange County in Southern California and you live right next door to Disneyland, because it's just kind of part of your day-to-day life. a lot of people who live really close, like maybe less than a mile from Disneyland, you'd be surprised that they don't really go to Disneyland. And part of that is they just take it for granted. And I think that's the way it is sometimes with beautiful music like Gregorian chant. I mean, it's sort of like when I first became Catholic and was on my way to the seminary, I would just listen to Gregorian chant almost every night, going to bed, drive around, listen to Gregorian chant, and just enjoyed it. And then later, when I started learning Latin, I could really appreciate some of the chants. So I actually knew what they were saying for the most part, or at least most of the time. At least things like in the ordinary of the Mass, like the Gloria Patri or the Credo, the Credo or the Gloria or the Lamb of God or the Sanctus, the Agnus Dei, I should say, Lamb of God, Agnus, the Sanctus, the Gloria, Holy, Holy, Holy. So a lot of those basic propers, I mean, the ordinary parts of the Mass, which are repeated at almost every Mass, at least on Sundays, I became very familiar with those in Latin. And again, I'm not a Latin scholar. I only play one on TV, or actually on YouTube. Not even on TV, just YouTube. But anyway, I just wanted to make a video tonight. I was thinking about doing a 360 video on my my GoPro Fusion uh, that I got a couple months back. And although this is a very great camera in some ways, unfortunately, processing video on this is it's a bear. You have to really know what you're doing. So and and I've had a few people. I think our dear uh, departed Tomas said, "Father, I like your videos, but I just don't really care for those 360 videos." So maybe Tomas, I was kind of thinking about him, and maybe in a little tip of the hat or a little honor to him, just you know, try not to do the super tech video. Whether I'm doing creative videos with my green screen, or I'm doing 360 videos, or I'm doing live stream, which I was almost going to do tonight, but the live stream just, well, it has a lot of work to do, and I don't really know if my internet is really that that capable of really doing it without it going blank a lot of times. So anyway, I decided, why not just get an old pipe, an old standby, something that's reliable and classic and enjoyable, good old friend, play some beautiful Gregorian chant music, which I love, but I hardly ever listen to because I don't take the time to do that. And I thought I'd just kind of make a video that is going to be a little bit more of a soul searching video. I mean, I know I sometimes I come off as kind of a cheeky kind of a guy, a little tongue in cheek. I'm kind of always being a little bit playful, like I was in my last video. Um, I'm kind of an imp. I'll be honest. I'm a part of Imps Anonymous. I'm an imp. I'm a recovering imp. Well, actually, not recovering because I don't make any excuses for being an imp. I am an imp. So, but I wanted to just kind of not so much make a video as I wanted to just kind of talk about some things that are kind of on my heart, I guess. And what I'm really talking about is in light of the recent scandal in my church, in the Catholic Church, and kind of trying to figure out, you know, what this all is going to, where's it going to lead people? and to just have a little bit of just trying to just talk about that instead of trying to, kind of give like a news commentary kind of a thing, or, not so much what I my opinion is about all of it, um, but kind of looking at what faith is really all about. And when I think back, what, 30, almost, well, 40 some odd, well, about 34, 35 years ago, when I finally made the decision to become a Catholic. And, you know, what that meant for me, and would I would I probably have the same feelings today? Uh, would I have the same feelings today in light of what's going on? In other words, let's say I was a neophyte, somebody who was, trying to find their way to joining the Catholic Church, and then all of a sudden, in the midst of this scandal, would that affect me? Would I say, I ain't joining that church, that's for sure? Or would I still kind of come to the same conclusions? And I don't know where other people are when it comes to their faith. I think there's a few of you out there that are Catholics. I'm assuming from some of your comments. Not that we've ever had an actual. Well, I mean, we've talked theologically on some aspects of Catholic faith or the Christian faith, and certainly some of you have voiced either your opinions, either pro or con, according to where I was standing. And I appreciated your comments on that. But as I'm kind of looking at this as a part of the body of believers, a member of the Catholic Church, ah, how do people, what does faith mean to people? What is it for them? What is faith? And I know that might sound kind of corny to even say it like that, because it sounds a little bit overly simplified. What is faith? But I guess I'm not talking about a theological definition at this point. I'm talking about more of what faith mean. What is faith in a person's life? What Everybody's different. Uh, and faith is kind of a, well, I guess if I'm going to try to unpack this in more of a kind of a personalistic kind of a viewpoint, I'd say faith is, for everybody's faith is very personal. It's very individual. Um, and all I can do is look at what it means to me. What I when I, If somebody was to say, well, for example, let's say if somebody was to line up a bunch of, say, pipes, and you would say, well, okay, what kind of a pipe is that? Well, that's a briar pipe, or that's a meerschaum pipe, or that's a Native American pipe, or that's a drug pipe, or that's a hookah. I mean, people would be able to kind of make say differentiate and say, well, these are, and so, it would be, for the most part, most people would just kind of have this experience one way or another. Maybe their dad smoked a briar pipe. Maybe nobody smoked a pipe in their home, their phone. I got an iPhone on my brain. Or maybe they just saw people like, Basil Rathbone playing Sherlock Holmes. Everybody equates pipe smoking with Sherlock Holmes, or vice versa. It's like the deerstalker cap. Oh, that's a Sherlock Holmes hat. So when people talk about faith, what are they talking about? What does it mean for them? And again, I can't answer that. I can only answer it for me. Now, I can talk about theological, formal faith, like what you find in the creeds and the authoritative teachings of the church's teachings, the magisterium, that's what we call it in Catholic circles. Uh, I guess Mormons call it doctrines and covenants. Um, I guess Lutherans talk about the Augsburg Confession. You know, in other words, kind of like there's a set of beliefs that you subscribe to, and you try to live them out to the best of your ability. But I don't know. I think faith is a little more organic. I mean, that's part of it, but I think there's something much more intimate, and again, I would say organic, that is in a person's heart, their soul, their mind. Uh, and all I can do is tell you my experience for what it's worth. And it might seem very corny and hokey to some people. Um, and a lot of it probably comes from culture and movies and stories and just impressions that people have about religious faith. Um, for me, I think a lot of my Catholic impressions when I was growing up, for better or for worse, came from Bing Crosby movies, Going My Way and The Bells of St. Mary's, and, those very lovable, very almost, maybe some people would say they were kind of, overly sentimental and, simplistic and silly. But I always kind of believed that, priests were good guys. Uh, they cared about people. They maybe they smoked a pipe, like Bing Crosby. Der Bingle. But as far as the things that you think about priests today, I mean, compare and contrast a Bing Crosby image of priesthood and the sad, ugly reality of the pedophile scandal today. It's like day and night. It's not like it's like this horrible joke. It's like this horrible, heartbreaking thing that somebody came in the middle. It's almost like how the Grinch stole, you know, the priesthood. you know, one night he came in and sewed all these sick guys in there, and they basically, obviously, have brought great scandal and upon the church, and even more sadly, they've brought great suffering to the lives of these little innocent kids or young men. So, my impression of what priesthood was supposed to be like. I got some. I need to get a better fill camera, but I just thought I'd just shoot this in low light and just see how it does. So, if you're saying, "Well, that's really kind of a dark video," sorry about that, but I don't think it'll be too dark. I could probably lighten it up a little bit in post when I get done with it. So Gregorian chants and Bing Crosby and let's see, and just meeting a few priests, I guess, in life, real life. The sense of there was, and there still is. I still believe that those things are still there. Those good priests are still there, um, and so and I strive to be like those priests that I've known and either read about or kind of said, hey, this guy was a good, kind person. They loved God. They loved other people. And they tried to lead people to God, and and try to do the best they can. Again, I know that right now the church is divided. It's even more divided now. There are a lot of people, and I've shared with this many times, who were, the division is, and some people want to see the church literally move much more progressively than it is, and other people want to say, you can't do that, according to the teachings of the church. It just doesn't. You can't. It's like trying to put a square peg into a round hole. It just isn't going to. It's just not going to work. Um, and unfortunately, there's that tension. Yeah. So what I consider my little icons of, when I think about faith, I say, okay, this is what it means to be a Catholic. This means, and yes, what it means to be a Christian ultimately. But this is the kind of the persona, the lifestyle, the way of life, I should say, that I kind of say, well, that's what I need to be. I need to be more of that and less of, the, I'd say just a regular secular person. Okay. Um, and I do believe that the church, you subtract all of the ugly deeds from the evil people that have done those deeds. You subtract those people. The church still is that reality, I think. Um, Although some people just want to just completely say, well, it's all bankrupt because of these vile predators, these other bishops who've covered up for them, the hierarchy, so on and so forth. And I guess I see the church much more mystically. Always have, always will. I'm a person that never really was a joiner of groups of people. Not that I never, I don't know if well, the thing was that I had to, um, there were just certain things about joining groups that I didn't naturally do that. Now, maybe if I had tried harder, had I tried, I don't know if I could have been a jock, because I just didn't, I was always a skinny toothpick until, later in life when I started putting on weight. Uh, but for the most part, I mean, I could have done track maybe if I had been encouraged to do that, if I'd had the interest and I'd had maybe some innate athletic ability, maybe I could have done that, but I just wasn't interested in that. I was interested in things that were just different. They weren't bad. For example, I'll tell you what, in high school, I thought I wanted to be, believe it or not, a Hollywood makeup man. No joke. No joke. I was fascinated by the guys that did the monster makeup for like Frankenstein and Wolfman and Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I was just amazed. And Planet of the Apes. How did they do that? How did they take a real human being and turn them into this creature? I just was fascinated by that. And so in high school, my early years of high school, I got into drama, even though I tend to be a kind of a ham and a character. But I was fascinated with all the stuff backstage, makeup and trying to create things. I remember we had one character in one of these little musical things we did. Anyway, he had to be a bald character, and I was learning about how to make a bald cap. And well, I don't need one now, but but I'm saying in high school, and I remember being able to apply some of these basic techniques, and I had a lot of fun with that. So, but that's not something most high school kids are into. Most high school kids, if they're not trying to get their GPA up to get into a good college, most of them, that's what they're doing. If they've got good parents, and the parents kind of, hey, you need to get down and get your homework done. You got to get better grades. Didn't have that. My mom loved me, but she just wasn't able to kind of give me that kind of direction and focus. It's like she kind of like, well, you got to figure it out for yourself. And so, I remember making money on paper routes. That was one of the things that I did. I was a paper route kid, you know, and that gave me some money to spend on things that I felt interesting, and I always liked building model kits. I thought that was kind of cool, and so I was just a different kind of a kid. In fact, what's is really neat is one of my childhood friends from my childhood days. I'm happy to say he and I got reacquainted about a year or so ago because he got into music, and he has a music store here. Yeah, he since sold the one here, but he's up in Reading now. But he still does all of our music stuff for our sound equipment here at the church. And it just kicked. I couldn't believe it. I said, I know this. He's a childhood friend of mine. So we've kind of gotten back together as buddies and friends, and gone to lunch a few times and gone for talking and stuff. And it's just really great to see that. But he and I we're into model railroading. We wanted when we wanted to do things to entertain ourselves. We didn't have the little gadgets that kids have now, and we come up with street games. Just we made up our own rules. And it was just a lot of fun, just being a kind of a kid. So anyway, so I never really did join groups. And so when it came to join the Catholic Church, I wasn't. Now some people may feel this is not a good thing, but I wasn't joining a group of people. I guess I was coming to know the Lord in a very unique and sacramental way. So it wasn't like I was, saying to heck with people, but people really weren't. I mean, yeah, did I have people that helped me and gave me things to read and tapes to listen to, and and to things to think about becoming Catholic? Sure, you bet, you bet. But as far as becoming a part of a group, I didn't see it as that. I saw it as becoming part of something mystical. That's just me. I mean, maybe other people see it as becoming a part of a group of people, and of course, you're a part of a group of people. But that's kind of secondary in some ways, because this is a movement towards God, not joining. If I wanted to join a group of people, I could have joined the Good Sam Club. I could have joined Junior Achievers, maybe. I could have joined, what was it, Key Club in high school? I don't know if they still have that anymore. But some of those little organizations that kind of got kids into community service and those kinds of things. I mean, I just wasn't. It isn't that I didn't like those things. I didn't have a connection. I guess that is. Just didn't have a connection to those things. So I was interested in what I was interested in, and most of the things I was interested in didn't. They weren't going to lead me to prison. They weren't going to lead me to join a circus either. So I mean, I was pretty content. Now later, I did kind of maybe after kind of well, actually, when I joined the Marine Corps, I wasn't really joining the Marine Corps to join a group of people, but I was joined to become something. I guess that's for me. I when I make a decision, these kind of big things decisions, I'm joining, or I'm being moved in that direction, that so that I can become hopefully a better person, a better version of myself, as the saying goes these days. I feel like God has a purpose for our lives, and you know we need to follow what He wants us to do. And so yeah, so along the way you might meet some really neat people, and I certainly have, and all the different little walks of life that I've had in my years on this planet, and I've met some really really wonderful dear people. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that I didn't join the Catholic Church to join a group of people or a society of people. And I think a lot of people, though, they're not like that. They are joining specifically the community, the organization, because that's what you do. You know, a lot of times people go to a church, and whether it's Catholic or Baptist or Lutheran or Methodist or evangelical free, brethren, disciples of Christ, whatever, Assembly of God, Foursquare, hey, they're joining that denomination, they're joining that fellowship, and that group of people. I mean, I think that's their And I could be totally wrong. Maybe they're more like me. Maybe there's no. They're being drawn by God. They're trying to find a relationship with God. So what I'm trying to say is that my relationship is not based upon a group of people or even a hierarchy, but it's based upon what I call is objective truth. You know, looking at myself first and seeing how I measure up, and I don't measure up very well. I need a lot of improvement. Be the first one to say that. So, but the thing is that it's always been like, again, kind of like this music here. You know, you don't really even have to understand the words per se. You just know that they're chanting and their hearts are hopefully, most of them are attuned to God. They're trying to draw closer into that great mystery that is God. And that's really all you need to know. Now, again, if you wanted to learn chant, well, that's a wonderful thing, you know. And I know some people that actually sing this in real life, and it's glorious. It's like wow, and that's another level. That's another level that will take you even deeper. Um, and yes, you sing in a schola, you sing in a choir. Um, you have voices, you have polyphony, you know, you have melodic lines, you know. So anyway, um, but when I think about faith, from my own personal experience of it, it's something that is transcendent. It's not really totally dependent upon, you know, a group of people. Now, you might say, well, that's ridiculous because it's, you know, the Catholic Church is based upon, you know, millions of people who have lived before you, and that's true. They have communicated that faith. But my faith is not in an individual. It's not in a priest. It's not in a bishop. It's not even in the Pope. Now, have I met wonderful priests? And they mean, yes, the priest that I first met, who I want to say, he gets a little nervous when I say this, but because of him, I'm probably a priest today. But he's a good one. He's a wonderful priest. I take 10 of the bad ones and put them in the scale with him, and those bad ones would still come up wanting. They still be coming up short. And I know that might sound like, well, that doesn't help those poor victims that have been abused by those other bad 10 priests. You're right. It doesn't. But again, um, I just think that when it's all said and done, at the end of the day, you have to be able to look at things objectively. Um, you know, and I don't say this a lot, but I was, when I say I've been abused by priests, I need to kind of clarify that. I don't want to make it sound like the same, like children, but but again, just like in any organization, you can have cliques. You can have people that have personality clashes, and I certainly have had my share of those. Let me tell you. Now, sometimes I would say most of the time, you know, I've tried to get along with people. I've tried to respect people, but I've had a lot of animosity and hostility and directed at me, and sometimes I haven't responded very well. I've have been less than charitable, been less than Christian, and I've argued with people, and I've said pretty rough things to, say, brother priests. You know, I've uh, I've kind of let them know that I don't appreciate their viewpoint, especially when they basically say you're wrong and you can't believe that way. Well, that's where I have a problem, and most of you know that. You know, so if you want to believe you are your way, that's fine, but you can't say, well, that's wrong, and you can't believe that way, and we're not going to let you believe that way. And unfortunately, that kind of where it was part of where some of my problems came in at is I had a lot of differences in uh, my theology. You know, I tend to be very traditional for the most part, and I have tried to defend that. Sometimes successfully, sometimes not so successfully, sometimes miserably. I've failed because there's just a lot of people that are very intolerant, and they don't want to see the beauty in the traditions. They want to They want to jettison them all, throw everything out, start all over again. They're even now trying, and I hate to say this, they're now trying to say, well, it's clericalism, meaning it's those old traditional conservatives that are, really have been these abusers, and that's just not true. And I hate to say this, and I know a few of you will be very upset when I say this, but clericalism, you want to know how many children clericalism has been officially uh, accredited with abusing children? You want to know how many? 0. You want to know how many gay priests have been accused of molesting kids? Hundreds. Now, I'll say this before you get really angry. I'm not trying to blame or pick on anybody when I say that. But here's the reality. That is a statistical fact that 80% have been uh, gay priests with younger boys. That's a statistic. That's a fact. And the church needs to look at that. It's sort of like the little red engine light that comes on in your car. You can try to ignore it. You can put a little black tape on it and say there's not a problem here. It's wrong to do that. We've got to be honest and say, what does this mean? It's happened. So let's not run away and say, well, that's uncomfortable. We don't want to talk about that because it sounds like we're being intolerant now. No. Just be like, say an alcoholic priest. I are one. Let's just say that it was proven that most alcoholic priests can't maintain sobriety. And I'm getting drunk and I'm driving out there in the world and I'm doing all sorts of crazy things. You just have to say, sorry, you're just not able to fulfill this public ministry. Doesn't mean you're really a bad person. It means you got a problem. You need to deal with it. And that's all I'm saying about those statistics. So I'm not trying to point fingers and say, everybody is all bad and, you're going, hit the door. But I am saying that it needs to be addressed. You have to look at it for what it is. What is this? What is going on here? And that's all I'm trying to say about that, is that right now we're not willing to look at it. It's a problem. It is a problem. And if the church isn't going to look at it, how are you going to solve the bigger problem? Because this is a big piece, a really big piece of this whole problem. And if we're going to ignore it and say it doesn't exist, then we're not going to deal with it. We're not going to really, it's going to come back. It's going to come back and back and back until we figure out what's going on here. So that's what I would say about that. So when I look at where people are today and trying to say, well, what are they processing in all of this? What is it like for, say, another person in the pews? I see several hundred people a weekend, and I kind of I look at them and glance at them and kind of, say, okay, they're here today. That's nice to see. They're here. But what's going on in their hearts, In other words, I guess another way I was looking at it is, and this is a little more maybe negative, and again, I'm not saying I'm thinking about this at all, but, what would it take for me to leave? What would it take for me to leave? Um, you know, I've thought about that, not a lot, but from when I've had episodes in my life where I was going through personal, problems, struggles, and there've been a couple of times where I thought, and although the thought crosses your mind, it's just not. In fact, I did have an occasion, about maybe 12 years ago. About 12 years ago. Let's see. Yeah, about 12 years ago. Um, where I was really, I was a prison chaplain, and I was going through some really difficult times, and I honestly thought maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe because I was getting into uh, a lot of uh, altercations, not physical fights, but really bitter arguments with other priests. And so, I started thinking, I don't know if I really want to live the rest of my life fighting all the time. I don't mind standing up for what I believe in, but if I'm just going to be getting slapped down every time I stand up and say, I'm sorry, I disagree, or, and here's why I disagree, and everybody saying, we don't care why you disagree, you need to just sit down and shut up. I didn't respond well to that. And so I honestly thought about kind of saying maybe I need to just go get a secular job and say, okay, I gave it my best shot. I think I had at that time, I was 15. Let's see, how many years? Well, anyway, it wasn't like I had been ordained a couple of years. I mean, I'd been, let's see, I'd been uh, 5 years as a parochial vicar, which is the number two guy. Then I did 3 years in the Army, and then I did almost 10 years as a state chaplain. So it was like 18 years. Okay, so I've been 18 years. Okay, that's give or take a year. Anyway, bottom line was, I seriously said maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe it's just not. It's not for me. Not that I didn't want to. It's just that it wasn't. It was like I felt like I was hitting my head against a wall. Boom, boom, boom. So, but something happened, and it's simple, but it is what it is. When I first became a Catholic, I was on a week. Believe it or not, I think it was the second time I went on a week-long fast. And that's before fasting became kind of health related as well as spiritual and, more of a discipline like it is today. And, but so I was teaching school. I was a school teacher, fourth grade school teacher. Yeah, fourth grade. Yeah. I can count. I really can. And so anyway, but during that week of fasting, we were teaching. I think it was like Holy Week, and then Wednesday was our last day. But anyway, so I was, for 2 or 3 days there, I was fasting, and oh boy. So that I come home in the evenings, and the little church that I was at, Holy Family, they had a little video library, and one of the things that intrigued me was the traditional Latin Mass, and I'd heard about it. I think I even saw it once on TV with my brother, and it was narrated by Archbishop Fulton Sheen. In fact, it's on my other channel. You can look it up. But anyway, I remember watching this, and it was in glorious black and white. And I watched it, and it's like maybe 2 hours long. And I would just sit or lie down on this couch or whatever in this living room. I was babysitting a friend's house, and I remember watching this video over and over and over again. And I saw the beauty of the liturgy. And I was mesmerized by that beauty. And Dostoevsky says, beauty will save the world, and I like to add, and liturgical beauty will save your soul. And I was hooked. And I thought, wow, this is beautiful. Now I knew that contemporary Mass wasn't said like that anymore, at least not that I knew of. But I began to say, maybe someday we can bring this beauty back. Maybe I can be a small part of bringing this back so people can experience God in this beautiful form of worship. So that to me was kind of like, this is it. I'm in love with the beauty of the Eucharist and the Mass, and that's enough for me. So, oh, my disc is almost full. Okay, I better end this out. So, anyway, long story short, I'm going to keep it short, is that's what so I rewatched that video, and that helped me to make my decision to stay. So there you go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off now. Hopefully you got something out of it. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate it. Blessings to you, and peace.